our outstanding students. And to introduce our student speaker, here is the director of the Doctor of Education program in Educational Leadership and Management of Drexel University, Sacramento, Dr. Ed Bureau.
Thank you, Sandy. It gives me great pride and pleasure this evening to introduce Dr. Jessica Kriegel. Jessica is a member of the third cohort of the doctoral program. She is receiving her degree this evening. And I can tell you a very quick story about Jessica. When she was a recruit and she made up her mind, she said, Dr. Bureau, I am going to do this program and I'm going to do it with pizzazz. And she has with pizzazz. Jessica is the consultant to the Oracle Corporation in organizational development, a new post that she's just received. And this evening she is speaking on a concept that is very dear to the EDD program. It's a concept that she actually ran across in the second quarter of the program in one of her courses. So please welcome Dr. Jessica Kriegel.
Thank you, Dr. Bureau. 3 years ago, I sat down at my desk to begin reading the first homework assignment for my first class in the EDD program in Educational Leadership and Management. Dr. Bureau was our professor, and he had assigned us to read the first 100 pages of The Necessary Revolution by Peter Senge. After having recovered from the shock of having to read 100 pages, which felt like a million at the time, I opened the book. And Senge begins with a story about the Australian water crisis, and then it unfolds into a call to action for the readers to work together towards creating a sustainable future. And I remember thinking, what the heck does this have to do with educational leadership? I did not get it. Well, little did I know. In fact, creating a sustainable future was one of the central tenets of the EDD program. The most memorable executive weekend that I shared with my fellow Cohort 3 classmates that I see right there, hi, was a conversation that we had around what it is to act in the world versus acting on the world. It's a powerful question. So imagine that my left fist is me and my right fist is the world. When I am acting on the world, I'm on top of it. I'm better than it. I'm coming from a place of ego, and I might call that unconsciousness. And as a result of that kind of thinking, I'm crushing it just a little bit. Well, we are now realizing that that's exactly what's been going on. We've all heard it for decades. The human race is a parasite, gutting the riches of nature and the wild. But living on the world doesn't just have to do with our environmental impact. It also describes how we interact in our communities. If I'm living on the world and I'm crushing those around me, then I have no regard for my fellow man and my fellow woman. I'm not creating sustainable communities or sustainable personal relationships in my life. So now imagine that I'm living in the world. My hands come together. When I'm living in the world, I'm a part of it. I'm an active participant. It's about symbiosis and collaboration and support and consciousness and harmony. Now that may sound a little Beatle-esque, but I'm not suggesting that all you need is love. Rather, living in the world is going to be a huge challenge because it will require a major paradigm shift. And this is a challenge that we will be facing for years to come as education leaders, as business leaders, as public health leaders. Some intentional communities have already been created around this idea of the paradigm shift that needs to happen. Richard Branson and 13 other business leaders from around the world have created a task force called Plan B. Presumably, it's called Plan B to imply that Plan A is not working. And their goal is to focus business away from short-term monetary gains and quarterly earnings and stock price and towards the long-term and sustainable benefit to our people and our planet. They are striving to live in the world and not on the world. We, as Drexel graduates, are on their heels, and we can look to some of our fellow graduates here today for similar inspiration. We can look to Rosie Cerna, who is a public health professional with a focus on food systems and community interventions. We can look to Addie Ellis, who is an advocate for children experiencing homelessness and a regular volunteer at the Mustard Seed School. We can look to Sally Fontachek, who is starting a nonprofit organization benefiting at-risk youth in a local Asian community. Some may argue that they are the exception. I mean, if the world is going to end, as the doomsday sayers predict, then why bother? I mean, we might as well go home. There's nothing we can do here. But there is. We can change the assumption. We are neither the masters of the universe nor parasites infecting it. We are not separate from the planet. We are a symbiotic, listening, collaborative, loving, conscious, harmonizing part of it. Some commencement speeches will exhort the graduates to go forth and change the world. But I am suggesting that we stop trying to change the world, and rather we change ourselves to fit the world, and in so doing, come into harmony with it. So, harmony, that brings us back to the Beatles, doesn't it? So, Sacramento Drexel graduates of 2013, would you please join me in clasping your hands together? And now, in the words of John Lennon, imagine. Thank you. Thank you.
What a great talk, and obviously a natural educator. How do we sign up for your class? Our outstanding graduates have had a number of academic honors and awards bestowed upon them. They're indicated by name alongside the list of graduates on page 5 of your program. And I'd like to ask the following students to stand and be recognized. In the School of Education, 10 recipients of the Graduate Student Award for a perfect 4.0 grade point average, as well as the recipient of the Leadership and Service Award. Congratulations. The Graduate Student Association has selected this year's recipient from among a wonderful group of finalists, and I ask them to stand and to be recognized when I call their names. These are the finalists, and from this group, we will announce the person whose name will appear on the board. Melissa Williams, please stand up. Fred Walkover. Jessica Kriegel.
Dr. Jessica Person Kriegel, with Supervising Professor Dr. Dr. Curtis Lee Morton III, with Supervising Professor Dr. Salvatore Ferretti.